Have you ever wondered why ancient knowledge seems reserved for only a select few? Why are there secrets that aren't truly hidden, yet remain distant and unreachable for most? It's not because they're concealed. It's because most of us simply aren't ready to receive them. Since ancient times, masters like Hermes Trismegistus, Paracelsus, and Fulcanelli understood one profound truth. Real knowledge isn't meant for the merely curious. It's for those willing to experience it firsthand. Alchemy isn't just about turning lead into gold. It's the journey of transforming yourself from an ordinary being into the purest, strongest version of who you truly are. On this journey, there are three portals, three ultimate trials that are not for the faint of heart. These aren't abstract symbols or empty metaphors. They are real experiences that demand courage, endurance, and the willingness to let go of your old self. Each portal is a test. Are you strong enough to release your fears? Are you brave enough to face the darkness within? The question isn't whether you can find these portals. It's whether you're truly ready to cross through them. If you believe you have what it takes, then join me as we explore the three portals of alchemy, where only the truly initiated have the strength to pass through. In the Kybalion, one of the most enigmatic texts of the Hermetic tradition, the ancient masters classified seekers of knowledge into three groups. The unawakened are those who live on autopilot, trapped in the illusions of the material world. They don't question, they don't perceive the mysteries around them, and they go through life without realizing they are inside an invisible prison. The awakened but not initiated begin to sense that there's something beyond the visible. They seek answers, study, and investigate, but they still remain in the realm of theory. Crossing the first threshold requires more than intellectual knowledge. It demands direct experience. And then there are the true initiates. These individuals don't just understand alchemy, they live the alchemical process in their own flesh. They face the collapse of identity, internal purification, and the integration of a new consciousness. For them, three portals open. These portals represent challenges that few are willing to face. They are not empty metaphors nor abstract symbols. They are real experiences of transformation that test the seeker's courage, endurance, and commitment. Crossing the portals means dying to who you were and being reborn into who you have always been. The question isn't whether these portals exist. The question is, are you ready to cross them? Before crossing the portals, the alchemist must first prepare a laboratory, but forget any image of a dimly lit room filled with ancient scrolls, cryptic symbols, and mysterious glass vials bubbling with strange liquids. The true alchemical laboratory is not a hidden chamber tucked away in some forgotten temple. It is not outside of you at all. It is within you. Every thought, every emotion, every deeply buried memory becomes part of this sacred space. This laboratory isn't built with bricks and mortar. It's built with awareness, intention, and the courage to face your innermost self. The ancient masters knew that without a prepared internal space, transformation is impossible. You could chase every mystical teaching in the world, but if your mind remains chaotic and your emotions run wild, every attempt at meaningful change will crumble before it even begins. You might think you're ready to evolve, but if your inner world is filled with noise, fearful thoughts, doubts, anger, or unresolved pain, then the energy you need for true transformation will never take root. It's like trying to build a castle on shifting sand. This is why the first step of the great work isn't about crossing mystical thresholds or unlocking secret knowledge. It's about laying the foundation within yourself. Before you can journey toward higher consciousness, you must first create the internal conditions that allow change to happen. Think of your inner world as a reflection of who you truly are. Your mind becomes the mirror of the alchemist, and it will reveal everything, both the beautiful and the broken. In the ancient days, alchemists worked in physical spaces surrounded by tools that seemed mundane at first glance. Flasks, furnaces, scales. But these instruments weren't just tools, they were profound symbols of internal transformation. Each represented a process the alchemist had to undergo within themselves. Among these tools, none were more essential than the crucible, a vessel designed to withstand intense heat, where metals were melted down to purge their impurities and reveal something pure and valuable beneath. But when it comes to the alchemy of the soul, that crucible isn't made of iron or clay. It's your own mind and heart. This is where the true work happens. Every trauma you've endured, every limiting belief that's been ingrained in you, every scar from past wounds, these are the impurities weighing you down. They cling to you like chains forged from fear, pain, and self-doubt. If you ever hope to cross the portals of transformation, you must be willing to throw all of this into the fire and see what remains when it's all burned away. But this burning doesn't happen on its own. It requires brutal honesty, a willingness to face yourself without filters, without excuses. What harmful patterns do you fall into without even realizing? What fears quietly dictate your choices, holding you back from becoming the person you were meant to be? True transformation demands that you dissolve these inner battles. Only by breaking through the war within can something new be born. This is where most people stumble. They say they want change. They long for a new life, a fresh path, a sense of freedom from their burdens. But when faced with the painful process of letting go of what holds them back, they hesitate. They cling to familiar suffering because it feels safe. They want to evolve but refuse to release the old pain that chains them to the past. Yet the ancient alchemical truth remains clear. There is no transmutation without destruction. You cannot forge gold without first melting down the lead of your ego. The old version of you, the one built on fear, false identity, and limitation, must collapse for something greater to rise from the ashes. And yes, it hurts. Growth always hurts. But without this necessary destruction, there can be no evolution, no rebirth. But even the willingness to confront your inner demons isn't enough if you don't have the strength to see the process through. In the ancient alchemical tradition, the crucible alone wasn't enough. The process also required sustained heat, generated by the athanor, a special furnace designed to maintain a constant temperature, allowing the slow and steady transformation of matter. Without the athanor's steady fire, the alchemical work would never reach completion. On a personal level, the athanor represents something far more powerful than any physical flame. It is the inner fire of willpower, discipline, and persistence. This is the steady burn that keeps you moving forward when everything inside you screams to stop. Without this internal furnace, transformation stops halfway. Think about how many times you've tried to change a habit only to give up when it got hard. How often have you set goals only to abandon them as soon as discomfort arose? That's not failure. It's simply a sign that the fire within you isn't strong enough yet. If you truly wish to cross the portals of transformation, you must learn to cultivate and strengthen that fire. It means committing to your growth, staying focused even when faced with distractions, and refusing to let the first obstacle break your will. It's learning how to keep your energy steady, your intention sharp, and your heart open, even when fear and doubt creep in. And now, as you stand here with this newfound understanding, the moment of truth approaches. The first portal awaits. Beyond it lies not just the promise of change, but the possibility of becoming someone entirely new. Someone who isn't chained by the past, but forged by the fires of courage and persistence. The question is no longer whether you're capable of transformation. It's whether you're ready to take that first step. Are you prepared to face the fire within? Are you ready to burn away the old and rise anew? The crucible is set, the furnace burns steady, and the path stands open. Now, the only question that remains is, will you cross the portal? The laboratory is ready. The crucible has been prepared. The fire of the athanor burns steadily, and the alchemist carries a journal to record every transformation. But nothing can be created without something first being destroyed. At this moment, the first portal opens. Negredo, the black phase of alchemy, the first great test of the initiate. This is the moment when illusion begins to crumble and truth is revealed, but not in a gentle or comforting way. Negredo doesn't bring clarity, nor does it bring answers. It brings darkness. It forces the alchemist to face themselves with no masks, no filters, and no illusions. The ancient alchemists compared this phase to putrefaction, a stage in the physical laboratory where decaying matter breaks down, preparing itself for a new form. In the internal laboratory, Negredo is the collapse of the old self. It's the moment when certainties fall apart, comfortable truths become useless, and everything that was once known ceases to make sense. But what does this mean in practice? It signifies the destruction of the old self. Every belief that once upheld the alchemist's identity begins to be questioned. What once seemed solid, permanent, and reliable is revealed to be nothing more than a fragile construct built on conditioning. Everything you thought you knew about yourself, about life, and about the world begins to collapse. This is the terrifying yet necessary moment of facing the shadow. Negredo forces the alchemist to confront their deepest fears. The things long buried, repressed, ignored, or avoided now rise mercilessly to the surface. Old traumas resurface. Negative patterns once easy to dismiss become undeniable. The inner darkness manifests without mercy. There is no escape. This is total deconstruction. The soul enters a state of chaos, a sense of complete dissolution. It feels as though everything is falling apart and nothing makes sense anymore. Many refer to this agonizing moment as the dark night of the soul, a period of intense confusion, suffering, and isolation, where everything the alchemist once knew fades away into oblivion. But Negredo is not a punishment. It is a necessary process. True transformation doesn't begin with light or revelation. It begins here, in the depths of darkness, in the destruction of everything false and fragile. Only through this profound dissolution can something entirely new be born. The journey has truly begun. Negredo was devastating. Everything the alchemist once knew was undone. The old self crumbled, illusions dissolved, and all that remained was emptiness. But it is precisely from this emptiness that the second portal emerges, Albedo, the phase of purification and rebirth. If Negredo is the dark night of the soul, Albedo is the first ray of light after the storm. It is not yet the gold of final realization, but it offers a glimpse of what is to come. Confusion begins to give way to understanding. Chaos reorganizes itself into a new order. The mind becomes clear, the heart becomes light, and the soul begins to rise. But this phase doesn't happen on its own. It requires the alchemist's active work. If Negredo was the collapse, Albedo is the reconstruction. But a different kind of reconstruction. This time it must be built without the impurities of the past, without the distortions of the ego, and without the chains of ignorance. What happens in Albedo? Mental clarity. If before everything was shrouded in fog, now the alchemist begins to see beyond appearances. The hidden laws of the universe start to reveal themselves. The connection between life's seemingly random events becomes clear, and patterns emerge where there was once only chaos. The veils that once obscured vision are lifted, and reality is revealed with a profound sense of clarity. What once seemed like coincidence is now understood as synchronicity, a purposeful alignment of events in perfect harmony with the greater flow of the universe. Emotional balance. Those raw, instinctive impulses that once dominated the alchemist, blind rage, paralyzing fear, uncontrolled anxiety, begin to lose their grip. In their place, serenity emerges. The alchemist learns that not every situation requires an immediate reaction, that not every thought must be pursued. Silence, once uncomfortable, now becomes a source of power, often carrying more weight than 1,000 words. The turbulent waters of the psyche begin to calm, reflecting light like a still lake under the moon's glow. The soul's ascension. If Negredo was a plunge into the abyss, Albedo marks the beginning of the ascent. The soul, once trapped in the illusions of the material world, begins to break free. The alchemist realizes they are not just a body, not just a mind, not just emotions. They are something greater, something eternal, something that has always been there, but could only now be felt in its true depth. The heavy chains of identity, fear, and ego begin to fall away, revealing a core that has always been pure and untouched by the chaos of the external world. But this transformation is not an instant revelation. It is a process. And the difference between those who pass through Negredo only to remain stuck in suffering and those who reach Albedo lies in one crucial ability: integration. It's not enough to survive the death of the old self. You must allow yourself to be reborn without carrying the same burdens back into your new form. The darkness of Negredo strips everything away. It leaves you raw and exposed. But Albedo is where you decide what to rebuild and what to leave behind. You learn to construct a life not from fear or past trauma, but from clarity, balance, and newfound strength. It is a phase of delicate refinement, where every layer of false identity is carefully peeled away, and what remains is something purer, something closer to your true essence. This stage demands patience, reflection, and an unwavering commitment to personal growth. Every insight gained, every moment of clarity, every surge of peace, it all contributes to the alchemist's gradual ascent from darkness into light. It is here, in this luminous space, that the first true realization dawns. Transformation is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering who you have always been beneath the illusions. The journey from Negredo to Albedo is not just a passage, it's a rebirth. And as the alchemist steps deeper into this phase, a profound understanding settles in. The hardest battles have been fought, and the path to true enlightenment has begun. The light of Albedo has revealed the truth. The mind has cleared, emotions have settled, and the soul has risen. The alchemist now understands the cycles, sees the order behind the chaos, and feels the presence of the hidden gold within. But knowing is not enough. Seeing the light does not mean the journey is over. One last step remains. The third portal awaits. Rubedo, the fire of realization. If Albedo was purification, Rubedo is manifestation. The great work is completed here, at the final stage, when the alchemist not only understands the essence of transformation, but becomes its living embodiment. This is the portal that few ever cross. Many reach the clarity of Albedo and grow comfortable, satisfied with the newfound understanding they have gained. But Rubedo demands more. It does not ask for knowledge alone. It requires the total embodiment of transformation. Knowledge must become life. Light must descend into matter. Awakening must take root in everyday existence. This is the true gold of alchemy. What happens in Rubedo? It is the union of body, mind, and spirit. The alchemist finally achieves absolute balance. Before, the mind and body were in conflict. Spirit and matter seemed like opposites, pulling in different directions. But now, everything is integrated. There is no longer a separation between the internal and the external, between the earthly and the spiritual. Everything becomes part of the same flow. Duality dissolves. If Negredo exposed the illusion and Albedo revealed the truth, Rubedo allows the alchemist to live that truth. They realize there is no division between the material and the spiritual, between the visible and the invisible. The world is no longer a game of opposites. It becomes a pulsating unity. Within that unity, they discover their true power. This is the awakening of conscious creation. This is the moment when the philosopher's gold emerges. The philosopher's stone, which for centuries has been seen as a mere symbol, now manifests within. The alchemist becomes the creator of their own reality. No longer are they a prisoner of circumstances, no longer a victim of unconscious cycles. They finally understand that they have always held this power, but only now, after passing through the three portals, can they fully wield it. The alchemist who crosses Rubedo is no longer the same. They have become what they sought from the very beginning. They are no longer merely practicing the great work. They are the great work itself. The alchemist who crosses Rubedo understands something essential. Transformation never happens in isolation. Nothing in the universe exists separately. Just as the fire of the Athanor depends on the precise balance between temperature and time, the transmutation of the soul is connected to far greater forces, the invisible rhythms that govern all existence. The ancient alchemists knew this. That's why they observed the cycles of the stars and their influence on both matter and spirit. Astrology wasn't just a study of the heavens, it was a hidden map of the great work itself. Each phase of alchemical transmutation has its correspondence with the planets. These celestial bodies are not merely spheres spinning in space, but points of connection between the microcosm of the alchemist and the macrocosm of the universe. Saturn, the Lord of Time, governs destruction, limitation, and the structures that must be dissolved. He is the guardian of the first portal, the force behind the hardest trials. His metal is lead, heavy, dense, and symbolic of ignorance that must be burned away in the alchemical crucible. Saturn's energy demands that the alchemist confront their deepest fears and limitations, stripping away illusions until only the raw essence remains. The moon, a soft reflection of the sun's brilliance, governs the waters of the psyche, emotional cycles, and intuition. Its metal is silver, malleable, bright, a reflective mirror that allows the alchemist to see their own evolution. In the portal of Albedo, the mind is purified and learns to reflect truth without distortion. This is the phase where clarity begins to emerge, and the alchemist reconnects with their intuitive wisdom. The sun represents the vital force, the flame that illuminates the fullness of consciousness. Its metal is gold, the perfect, incorruptible substance that symbolizes the peak of the alchemical journey. When the alchemist reaches Rubedo, they do not just understand the light, they become it. They embody the realization that the separation between the material and spiritual was always an illusion. Planetary cycles do not determine the journey, but they reveal when certain energies are most active. A waxing moon favors the beginning of new processes. A retrograde Saturn brings periods of deep internal reflection. The sun's transits activate different aspects of consciousness. Nothing happens by chance. By understanding how the cosmos influences their work, the alchemist learns to move with the rhythms of the universe, rather than against them. But transmutation doesn't happen solely on the spiritual level. It occurs within the physical body itself, which is the true vessel of the work. External alchemy has always mirrored internal alchemy. When ancient alchemists studied the purification of metals, they understood that this process also took place within the human body. The body is a living laboratory where chemical and spiritual forces intertwine. Hormones, substances that regulate physical and mental states, are directly linked to alchemical metals, each carrying a specific frequency connected to an alchemical principle. Iron, the metal of Mars, the planet of strength and war, is directly tied to blood and oxygenation. When iron is balanced, vital energy flows freely. When it is deficient, weakness, apathy, and stagnation take hold. Adrenaline, the hormone of combat and action, activates this force. The alchemist must learn to channel this energy without being consumed by it. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, symbolizes quick thinking, communication, and adaptability. In the body, it corresponds to dopamine, the neurotransmitter that governs motivation, creativity, and the joy of learning. When balanced, it brings clarity and flexibility. When imbalanced, it leads to restlessness or apathy. Alchemical gold is connected to serotonin, the substance responsible for regulating well-being and inner harmony. When serotonin is out of balance, anxiety, dissatisfaction, and emptiness arise. But when it is aligned, the alchemist experiences wholeness, a sense of unity with all that exists, the very state that represents the philosopher's stone. The ancient masters understood that for transmutation to occur, the mind and body must be in harmony. It isn't enough to merely understand alchemical philosophy. It must be applied within the body itself. The chemical balance of the body reflects the balance of the spirit. An alchemist does not ignore the signs of their body. They recognize that nutrition, sleep, breath, and movement are essential aspects of the great work. A toxic body, overstimulated by artificial inputs and drained of vitality, makes the transmutation of consciousness far more difficult. Are you ready to cross the portals? The journey of the great work has led the alchemist through the three portals. Negredo shattered the old identity. Albedo purified and reorganized the mind. Rubedo manifested the true essence. But where does this journey ultimately lead? The ancient alchemists called this achievement the philosopher's stone. Contrary to popular belief, this stone is not a physical object, nor a hidden substance locked away in secret laboratories. It is a state of consciousness, a level of existence where matter and spirit become one. The true transmutation was never about turning lead into gold. It was always about transforming yourself, refining the raw essence of who you are until only the purest inner gold remains. The path to the philosopher's stone isn't a mystery reserved for a chosen few, but it cannot be reached without effort. It demands deep internal work, a total purification of the mind, body, and spirit. But how do you reach the stone? How do you bring alchemy into real life? The answer lies within. The great work was never about chasing external riches. It has always been about unlocking the wealth that has been hidden inside you all along. The alchemist understands that their own body is a sacred vessel. Balance in nutrition, movement, conscious breathing, and hormonal regulation directly influences mental and spiritual states. The philosopher's stone cannot manifest in a fragmented body. Total balance is the key. The great truth about the philosopher's stone is this: it cannot be found outside because it has always been inside. No other alchemist can hand it to you. No book, no teaching, no philosophy can replace it. It is a process, an inner achievement, a state of being that cannot be lost or stolen. The alchemist who finds the philosopher's stone becomes the gold itself. Now you understand the true meaning of the three portals of alchemy. They are not empty symbols nor abstract metaphors. They represent real processes of inner transformation. But there is one essential question: do you accept the call? If this journey has found you, it was not by accident. Alchemy has always been reserved for those who are ready to awaken. What to do next? Commit to your transmutation. No real change happens without intention and effort. Set aside time each day to refine your consciousness and align yourself with your evolution. Recognize where you are in the process. Are you still in Negredo, facing your shadows? Or have you entered Albedo, seeking clarity? Maybe you are approaching Rubedo, ready to manifest your new reality. Identify your stage and work on it consciously. Learn to read the signs. Alchemy teaches that nothing happens by chance. Life always reflects our internal state. The challenges, the coincidences, the unexpected events, everything is a reflection of your transmutation. Integrate alchemy into your daily life. Meditation, contemplation, visualization practices, reflective writing, studying nature's cycles. All of these strengthen the alchemical process. Transmutation does not happen only inside the inner laboratory. It must be lived. The portals are always open, but no one can cross them for you. The decision is yours. What happens when you complete the great work? You learn to transform challenges into growth. You awaken to a level of consciousness where limitation no longer exists. You realize that you've always had the power to shape your reality. The alchemical gold is not outside. It has always been within you. The portals are open. The choice is yours. Thank you for watching. If you learned something from this video, please subscribe to the Top Hidden Knowledge channel for more content on wisdom, spirituality, and personal growth. Or if you have time, check out other videos on this channel. Until next time.